Hello, I'm Louanne Moldovan, host of the Signet Radio Hour. Welcome to our first pre-show interview. I am delighted to introduce Rabbi Michael Cahana, Senior Rabbi of Congregation Beth Israel here in Portland, Oregon since 2006. Welcome, Rabbi Cahana.
Thank you, Louanne. So pleased to be with you.
We're delighted to have you. A little background about Rabbi Cahana. In 1999, he was featured along with his family in the critically acclaimed documentary, The Last Days. You know, this film tells the stories of 5 Hungarian survivors of the Holocaust, including Rabbi Cahana's mother. She is the renowned Holocaust artist Alice Lok Cahana. And The Last Days, which was produced by Steven Spielberg's Survivors of the Shoah Visual History Foundation, won the 1999 Academy Award for Best Documentary. In 2009, he accompanied his mother to Rome, where one of her large-scale paintings became the first piece of Holocaust art on permanent display in the Vatican Museum. That is just, to say those words, Rabbi, is really awe-inspiring.
It was an amazing experience to be there and to have her present that thing to the Pope. Gosh.
Rabbi Cahana was born in Houston, Texas, which I never would have guessed, you as a Texas man. Rabbi Cahana comes from multiple generations of rabbis, including his late father, Rabbi Moshe Cahana. Rabbi Cahana began with a career of all things in the theater, including acting, directing, and theatrical design. He later earned an MFA in architectural lighting from Parsons School of Design. Soon, however, the family tradition of the rabbinic life called him, leading to his ordination in 1994, becoming the first Reform rabbi in his family's long rabbinic history. Rabbi Cahana integrates his rabbinical training with his theater background to create an environment in which prayer becomes an art form, and it is a breathtaking synergy, I must say. Very unique.
Very kind, thank you.
Rabbi Cahana is also highly engaged in social action, embracing the concept of tikkun olam, repairing the world, to make our community and nation better. He serves on the leadership team of Lift Every Voice Oregon, an interfaith movement to pass gun safety legislation in Oregon. While studying in Jerusalem, he met his wife, Cantor Ida Ray Cahana. She now serves as senior cantor at Congregation Beth Israel with her husband. They live in Portland with their son David and triplets Sarit, Leora, and Edith. That's some of the impressive background of Rabbi Cahana, who I asked here today to speak about the book Address Unknown, written by Catherine Cressman Taylor in 1938. This short story is told entirely in letters from 1932 to 1934 between 2 dear friends, Max and Martin, who are partners in a successful art gallery in San Francisco. Martin returns with his family to Germany, exhilarated by the advances in the old country since the humiliation of the Great War. His business partner, Max, an American Jew, remains in the States to keep the business going. The 2 men's correspondence chronicles a friendship torn asunder by the poison of Nazism. The prescience of this story is not confined to its time. It saw into our own future, too. Catherine Cressman Taylor wrote a statement. A short time before the war, she says, "Some cultivated, intellectual, warm-hearted German friends of mine returned to Germany after living in the United States." So this is first person. "In a very short time, they turned into sworn Nazis. They refused to listen to the slightest criticism about Hitler. During a return visit to California, they met an old dear friend of theirs on the street who had been very close to them and who was a Jew. They did not speak to him. They turned their backs on him when he held his hands out to embrace them. How can such a thing happen, I wondered. What changed their hearts so? What steps brought them to such cruelty? These questions haunted me very much, and I could not forget them. It was hard to believe that these people whom I knew and respected had fallen victim to the Nazi poison. I began researching Hitler and reading his speeches and the writings of his advisors. What I discovered was terrifying. What worried me most was not that no one in America was aware of what was happening in Germany, and they also did not care. In 1938, the isolationist movement in America was strong. The politicians said that affairs in Europe were none of our business and that Germany was fine. I wanted to ask you, Rabbi, how do you speak to the insidious intransience of anti-Semitism?
Well, thank you. I had not heard that introduction before to Address Unknown, and that is really fascinating that this stems from real life experiences of the author, and makes perfect sense because it is written with such personal experience, and written before the real rise of Hitler. Just during the time as this power was growing.
That's right.
And reading it is such a remarkable experience. It would be remarkable in any time, but it is so pertinent to our reality today.
Mm-hmm.
The rise of fake news, QAnon, the almost religious fervor that some followers of the former president had, the inability to listen to others, and the ability to close their hearts. That's not true, of course, of every follower of the former president, but you see that tendency, that human desire to belong to something, and how easy it is to turn off your moral compass when you are engaged in that sense of belonging. The fact that a person's heart can be turned against someone so close to them in a short period of time, based on a passionate belief that bears no connection to reality, is a frightening aspect of human behavior.
Yes.
We saw its worst case in Nazi Germany, and it's the way. But I think the author captures that human propensity so profoundly, and we're in the midst of it today. It's only weeks ago from the time that we're recording this, that the U.S. Capitol was stormed by believers in conspiracy theory, who were ready to, it appears, ready to find and execute people they perceived as being disloyal to the president.
Rabbi, do you believe that ferocity of feeling that you referred to a moment ago, and in those examples, where does that reside? You said in their hearts, but somehow, is that possible that it occludes, as you say, morality, ethics, integrity, justice, that belief system is that powerful that it blinds them to a moral way of being?
I think we've unfortunately in human history, we've been witness to it over and over again. Genocide is a reality. We saw it in the early United States against Native Americans. The ability to designate the other as non-human, and making and the willingness to slaughter, the ability to lose one's humanity, even in a highly cultured society as Germany was before the war. What I think is really significant about this short book is that it's not about the great figures of the political world. It's not a analysis of Hitler or his leadership. It is about an ordinary human being who gets swept up in a movement, and we can analyze the character or the reasons why he remained in it. And there's significant ambiguity in the book. We don't know if, knowing that that his letters are being read, how much is he posing?
Correct.
How much is he putting on a public face? And how much of it is really belief? I think we're left to wonder. Don't want to give any spoiler alerts because it's a short book, and almost anything you say about it gives away everything. And it's so significant to just be in the story and watch the humanity and the rise of the inhumanity within another person. But I think it speaks a truth, a sad truth about human beings, and I think it demands of us to constantly check our moral compass, constantly check our certitude, to be humble, and the some of what's described is something that you see in authoritarian regimes all the times, that inability to be humble, that ability to be absolutely certain that you are right, and that this is what a man does, we must operate with a muscular attitude towards action. These are signals that should be concerning.
How do you describe, or how do you explain that odd, chilling dilemma of transitioning from this passion, heartfelt passion that this is the right thing to do, to the landscape of inhumanity? Because inhumanity does not represent the territory of the heart. It has become something else.
Well, I think that what I think we have seen throughout history is that human beings have a propensity to carry a first concern for the small circle, themselves, their families, the people that they know, and that it's very easy to designate the other, particularly if it's someone that you don't know. Or, as we've often seen with anti-Semitism, to say, well, it's not personal. It's not you I know and I love, but it's global Jews, the international Jew, as it was called in the United States. And that ability to sort of separate and say, well, it's this we see it today. I like you. We've known each other, but you're a Democrat, and you're just deluded. I'm sorry that you're deluded, and I don't hate you, but it's those other Democrats. It's the Democratic Party. It is. We've taken these labels, and we have an ability to conflate labels with identity. Right? We've all experienced this. You identify yourself by virtue of a political party, therefore you are ... Democrats do it to Republicans. We do this all the time. I mean, we see that ability to otherize, and the incredible danger that happens when you do that, because if you're other, I don't have so much concern for you. And in fact, you may well be the source of all of my problems. And once you go down that road, as we have seen over and over again, that road leads to very dangerous outcomes. My mother, you talked about my mother in your lovely introduction of blessed memory. Passed away a few years ago.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. When she was a child in Hungary, in the rise of Nazism, she's going to school, she's doing all the kid things, And all of a sudden, there's these labels on her and a yellow star,
Mm.
and seeing her friends turn away from her, people that she knew well, and suddenly they wouldn't talk to her. And as her and her family and the Jews of the community were marched down the middle of their street to the cattle cars, people closed their windows. They didn't want to see. They saw them as not human, as deserving of what was coming to them. And these were people that had been their friends months before.
Did they also close those windows and doors, though, because they didn't want to acknowledge how horrific it was, what was happening, that they could deny, just avoid and deny?
My mother used this in her art as a symbol of the human propensity to not see what's right in front of you if you don't want to see it. That it is the closing the doors, closing the windows. I'm just going to close my mind to this. I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know how to understand it. Would they have actually been someone to throw stones? I don't know, but it's the first step is to not see the actions that are taking place.
And that kind of separation, that brutal separation, there's comfort in that for them, would you say?
It's all so very complicated. There is comfort. There's certainly, all conspiracy theories find great comfort in an easy answer,
Exactly.
in an easy enemy. So, the reason that I am experiencing whatever bad things are happening is because of this simple explanation. And if I can identify this group of people who are responsible, I can focus all of my hatred and all of my frustration and all of my loss on that and on those people, on those others. And that's what is very frightening.
It is. What do you think, as a rabbi, of course, that's what I'm puzzling with as we talk, that this subject for you must traverse many layers. What could be a possible, not solution, I don't know if anybody would know that, but a possible approach or tactic or avenue to travel down to work with these people, to deal with this propensity for humanity to take on this really horrific stance, this otherness?
I believe that humanity is moving in a direction of acceptance, of inclusion, of recognizing diversity. It does not come quickly, easily, or naturally. We hold on to our prejudices. We refuse to acknowledge that they exist. We hold on to our assumptions and we don't reflect on them, and we don't challenge ourselves, and we don't operate with humility. But that is changing. I mean, if you compare the realities of Middle Ages to the modern times, it is slow, but we all of us know more diverse people than we ever did. We come in contact with greater diversity of people than we ever did. We hear stories that we never heard before when we were living in our own bubble. Your work, this is what artists do. to tell the stories of people who are different than us. It's not linear. It doesn't happen quickly. We go forward, we move forward, we go backwards. But I really believe strongly that human beings are growing towards a greater acceptance of one another. We used to be very comfortable with the word tolerance. That was an early term that was really important because we came from a world of a great deal of intolerance, and winning was always the most important thing. We still have that reality, but tolerance is no more, to my mind, the important word. The important word is understanding, is acceptance, is love. And I find human beings, generally speaking, moving towards more understanding and more love.
Well, that's a beautiful representation of this whole dilemma, and it's encouraging to think of it that way, Rabbi. And I see your point. It's well taken. I think when I referred to otherness a moment ago, it was the polar opposite from your reference to it earlier, because I see that it felt like Pandora's box unleashed a great bastion of people feeling disenfranchised and therefore considering themselves as other to the rest of us, and embodying great hatred and ignorance. And it feels like that that group is hard to penetrate.
It is. I think that the use of the term "other" is important in our conversation. If we take the rise of the Nazi era as we're discussing, they didn't think of themselves as other. They thought of themselves as the real people.
Yes,
we are the superior people, and when you build yourself up, it is the other. It is often in contrast to another, that you are in a place that is superior to the other. Even though your status may be under, even though you are living in a sense of oppression, you are secretly better. And it is the other who is oppressing you, sometimes in some kind of secret cabal or the weaving that you have to do in order to explain why you, a superior person, are considered inferior in some manner, requires a conspiracy theory.
yes.
It's the nature of it. And so it is that other that is responsible for your condition. Again, brought out very clearly in the story,
Mm-hmm.
in the early, post World War I years, where Germany, out of the consequences of World War I, was suffering greatly, and the racist ideology that was there. How can we, as superior people with such great culture and intellect, be oppressed or be suppressed or be suffering in such a way that we are? It must be the fault of, now I need an enemy.
Mm-hmm.
I need someone to fill in the blank. And a conspiracy theory fills in the blank.
Yes. Someone to blame, as you said earlier.
Someone to blame, by all means.
Speaking of getting back to the book, the theme of revenge is quite paramount. I wondered if you could talk about the moral implications of revenge.
Well, I have to say this is the part of the book I find the least compelling.
Yes.
Although, of course, okay, I won't give anything away. It carries you forward. It's the most dramatic and engaging, but from a intellectual, moral level, I find it not compelling. The reality of post-Holocaust was not revenge. The people from the concentration camps, by and large, there certainly were examples, by and large, did not take revenge on their Nazi oppressors. There was accountability. Accountability is incredibly important. That is not revenge, right? Holding people to account for their crimes is the first step in justice. And it was important that Nazi leaders were put on trial, and that the world saw that trial, and that there was accountability that was held, those trials. One, of course. It was important that those were, that was the story. There could not have been healing without that accountability. And of course, that's where we are right now.
I was just going to say that is a perfect resonance to today.
By all means. And it's why this accountability is so very important and must precede healing.
Absolutely.
That's an important step for us to go through.
Absolutely.
And people have to pay for their crimes.
Yes.
Insurrection is a crime. It's a horrific reality, and people died.
Yes.
There must be accountability for all of those who stirred up a mob. And ultimately, I pray that there's going to be accountability for the people who are behind the QAnon conspiracy theory.
Absolutely.
Those people's cynical actions have caused great harm to people's lives. People have been lied to, and whipped up into a murderous frenzy by someone or someones who we imagine find this all rather entertaining. And there must be accountability. Now you've got me preaching. Stop that.
Wait, you're a rabbi. That's okay. You get to preach.
That's probably not why your audience is listening right now.
Oh, I think that I imagine our listeners are going to be embracing what you have said and how you have conveyed it. Rabbi Cahana, thank you so much for being our guest today. It has been a stimulating conversation.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Real pleasure to be with you. And wishing you great luck on this exciting podcast. And I know it's going to be a wonderful addition.
Thank you. Your mouth to God's ears, may I say.